We get to our main event of the evening, Alexander Volkanovski versus Sung Jung, the Korean zombie. Crazy line on this one. We've got Alexander Volkanovski at minus 670. He's up as high as minus 800 in spots. The best return you can get on Sung Jung is plus 550. That's kind of a crazy line. But again, it almost makes sense. It's probably wide, but not wide enough that I would necessarily bet Sung Jung's money line. Could you argue that there's a little value on it? Maybe, but I do think Volkanovski probably wins this fight. I mean, 8 out of 10 times. I don't know if it's quite that many, but I think he wins this fight at a pretty good clip. I would describe Volkanovski a little bit like how I described Peter Yan. He's a machine. Volkanovski, and I would even argue that, his striking game is mostly where he butters his bread, and I would even argue that his striking game is, I'm trying to figure out how to describe this in a way where people aren't going to go nuts in the comments about it. His striking game is high level, but it's fairly rudimentary as far as the strikes that he uses. He doesn't do anything super crazy. It's basically like he has mastered the fundamentals is a good way to describe it. I think he's got a fairly fundamental striking game that he uses at such a high level. He is so good at making reads on his opponent. He is so good at sliding in and out of range. He is so good at getting his opponent's range and timing figured out. He is so good at his shot selection. He's like a machine. Like I said, he makes his reads on you, and then he figures out the best way to deal with you, and then he just consistently sticks to that throughout. And that's really why he's such an effective fighter, I think. Every time I think about that, I think about how I used to play poker. I used to live in Fargo, North Dakota before I moved to Vegas. I lived in Fargo for like 20 years. And I had a big group of friends there. We used to get together and play poker. And quite often, I would win. And I'm not even the best poker player. I would just... I would be patient and consistent. Because these games would end up going all night. These games would end up going till 5, 6 in the morning sometimes. And, my friends would get drunk, they would get tired, they would end up just becoming impatient and making a bad decision. Whereas I would just I'd keep my blinders on, I'd pay attention to what I'm doing, I would just stay patient, I would stay consistent, not necessarily doing anything crazy, not making any big moves, just playing it tight, playing it smart, and just doing that patiently and consistently until the end when everybody else is out and I'm raking in the chips. That's Alexander Volkanovski's game, at least in my opinion, is... He keeps it fundamental. He keeps it tight. He keeps it consistent. He stays patient. He doesn't take any big risks. He figures you out. He makes his reads. He figures out the best way to deal with you. And then he just does that consistently for 25 minutes. And that is a pretty difficult thing to beat. He also attempts more than 11 significant strikes per minute and lands more than 6, so his output is fantastic as well. Korean Zombie is, he's known, the reason he has the nickname he has is he's known for being really hittable, but really tough. But he's also said that, he doesn't want to prove that moniker every time out. He understands that's not a smart way to conduct your career over time. He's like, I'm not trying to prove that I'm the zombie. I'm not trying to go out there and take those shots every time like that. Korean Zombie he's really relaxed and smooth, the way he fights. But he's a guy he doesn't throw nearly as much output as Volk. He's a guy who's looking to hurt you with a big shot more so than, he doesn't have that Diaz style where he just wants to land and touch you up. Like he's looking to pick his shots, looking to land something big and hurt you more so than to try to win on volume. He's definitely a big finisher. He has 17 pro wins and only 2 of them have come by decision. One of them being his last fight against Dan Ige. So yeah, he's a finisher. He's not a guy who's going to decision all that often. But Volkanovski will almost certainly be throwing more, landing more, and winning minutes. So really, I think Korean Zombie's pretty much his only shot to win this fight is to find a finish. I don't think he's going to win minutes consistently. I don't think he's going to be able to outstrike Volkanovski significantly. I don't think he's going to be able to outland him over 25 minutes. I think that's very, very unlikely. Korean Zombie needs to either find a knockout or a submission, and he's capable of finding both. He's very good at finding both of those things. It's just those things are really hard to find against a fighter like Volkanovski. So yeah, I do lean Volkanovski to win this fight, probably by decision. I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to finish Korean Zombie. Maybe round 4, round 5, maybe he could find something late. I don't find it terribly likely. So by way of a pick, I will pick Volkanovski to win here. Last I looked, you could get Sung Jung inside the distance at plus 700. You could also look at, specifically his KO prop or submission prop. I do think if he's going to win, that's how he's going to do it. And yeah, I definitely, obviously I wouldn't go heavy on anything like that, but I don't mind a sprinkle on some of those props, Sung Jung inside the distance or by KO or by submission, because if he's going to win, that's how he's going to do it. I do think Volkanovski is probably the winner here, but when you can get like plus 700 on a guy like Sung Jung, who is a finisher, who does tend to find finishes, that's, maybe not a bad thing to look at taking a sprinkle on.